We are officially live, so I'm gonna have you go to my page, share it on your page, and then we'll get this interview started. Oh yes, lovely people, know that I am monitoring the chat. Today we have a special guest. Today we have a super amazing woman that's gonna tell us not just about the empowerment work that she has done with women, but the work that she's doing in financial education. I am super pleased and super thankful to introduce one of I feel like one of my oldest colleagues that really like saw me, connected with me. And of course, I was a young professional at that time. So lots of work that needed to get done to get to this place. Thank you so much, Lynn. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, Dar. I know when you said that, yeah, I mean, we've met so many moons ago. So many moons ago. Yeah. I appreciate the introduction. I'm honored to be here and just to have a conversation to share, what I'm up to and connect with others who are able to join us today.
Absolutely. And so for folks who are listening and know that like the chat is open, I am, monitoring the chat. If you have any questions for Lynn as it relates to anything that we are talking about, feel free to ask it and I will monitor that for you. Lynn, so what's on your heart today? I have a lot of women who follow me who, comment and share my work, share my posts. And so it's really important for me to highlight women who are doing amazing work like you, who've been doing amazing work, right? And so what's on your heart? What would you like to share with folks? Where you been, where you going? What's going on?
Thank you. Yeah, that's a big question, right? For sure. Again, very honored to be here. This month, actually, I know you're highlighting women, but this month is actually Financial Literacy Month. So it's actually quite appropriate that you have me on for April today.
Yes.
So in addition to being a woman, what's kind of on my heart these days, I'll give a little bit of background of who I am for those who don't know me. I spent 10 years at the University of Michigan, the Ann Arbor campus, doing work in multicultural affairs, kind of really helping students feel like they have a space on campus, feel like they matter. I connected with colleagues like Dar, who's working in housing, right, where so many students start their college experience. Right, that's kind of where he and I connected, was around some of the diversity work he was doing. The space of ensuring that people feel like they matter, right, that their voices matter, that issues of diversity are kind of brought to the fore. Particularly for me, where my heart always sat was with student empowerment, right? Students coming to college, particularly students of color, don't have a space sometimes, right? Because there's not many people who look like them. And so I was very honored to be on the staff at the university to really connect, right? Build connections, teach, and then bring people into spaces where they could feel like they matter, right? Doing one-on-one coaching has always been a part of my journey. I've been very privileged, to have very great mentors over the years. And I saw that as just a way that I could give back to the world. So that's kind of what I did for 10 years. Right. And that journey really helped me develop all the expertise and knowledge I needed to really live into who I really was. I'm someone who is committed to service, someone who's committed to justice, right? And that experience at the university really honed me into the leader that I want to be every day, right? Which is someone who's kind and compassionate, who really can, ensure everyone has a voice at the table, who are empowered to kind of come to their own stories, right? So that's kind of where my heart was for a long time, right? And it will always be a part of me. But to be honest, in that environment,
pivot somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In that environment, I grew a lot, but it took a lot from me. The higher education took a lot from me. I didn't take care of myself the way I wanted to for the 10 years I was there. I gave everything to someone else, even though my work was really important. Actually did it sometimes at the sacrifice of my own wellness, right? And so one thing, that I'd like to share and think about what's on my heart now as I transition into a different way of being is that we have to take care of ourselves in whatever processes we do, right?
Whatever work we're doing.
Yeah, we can't impact the world when we have nothing to give.
Ooh, right? Wait, you hitting us with bars right now already?
Right? Yeah, I mean, that's the heart. That's just how it goes, but we can't. And so as a result, what I learned in that journey, Dara, was 10 years. I did amazing work, but I actually left depleted. And then as a result, I wasn't able to do what I wanted in the world, right? Unfortunately, I was privileged enough financially to be able to take a step out and say, hey, this is not acceptable. I don't want this for myself. And I actually am not giving the world anything that I can. Like I have nothing else to give. Right. So that's where some of my, when we think about finances, I'll talk a little bit of why what I'm doing now and the campaign I'm on. But that was, and that's why when we think about not being able to do the things we want is, we have expectations we have from others, right? But again, I was very honored and privileged. I was able to step out and say, Lynn, that's not what you want for yourself. And you can't serve the world that way, right?
Yep.
So kind of passing forward, I kind of was like, okay, this is enough. It's enough. I know I did empower work, good work, but I actually need to go and kind of find myself again. And so I stepped out. I was very blessed. I was able to kind of have two sons in the process, right? So the last 2 years I've been, and I think last week you and Stephanie talked about, and I chimed in and said, parenthood is the hardest thing we'll ever do.
Whew, you can say that 3, 4,
Yeah.
5 times. Okay. My son is in 3, he's 4 months. He's in sleep regression right now. So I'm like off 2 hours of sleep. And so this space is necessary for me because I would just be walking around like not there. Right.
Correct.
And so, you talk about your things like not having your cup being full, right? You can't pour from an empty cup type of ideology. Right. And so what then pushed something to make you pursue what actually fills your cup, right? What is the thing that's like, oh, wow, like, or how did you find the thing that was like, wow, this is what's what for me, right? This is it. Well, how did you find that thing?
Yeah. I think I'm still on that journey, but what I know is that in community I will grow more, right? And so what I did was seek spaces with other women, right, to talk, to process from that former experience, so that I can actually arrive at so what is it I want to be? Sometimes it's easier to say, well, I don't want to be this, but it's actually hard to say this is actually what I want to be. Right. And so in those 2 years, 3 years, I actually sought out a whole bunch of things. I found mentors in the personal leadership world. There are a couple of philosophies of leadership that was really core of how I showed up every day. This idea that as a person, I have control of my reactions to everything, right? Stuff doesn't happen to me, right? I can react and respond in a way and take a perspective on anything, but I need to do it in alignment with who I actually want to be and how I want to show up, right? Alignment of so for me, those words were, I want to be courageous. I want to be compassionate. I want to be generous. And so anytime something showed up in my life, moments of hardship, it was, okay, well, how do I react to this experience in a way that I can still be those characteristics that I strive to be, right? So those 3 years for me of kind of processing and raising my kids and unraveling some of the hurt and the pain was to come back to my true self. And so I did that in community. What other things that give me joy? Love talking to people like you and I'm totally extroverted. Remember we took all those personality things? I'm like the blue and the reality check of blue, right? Which is extroverted, right? Someone who really strives from other energy. And I'm learning it's really just because in space with people is where I grow and actually just love to grow. I don't like to stay stagnant. I love to grow, and it's hard to grow, but I like it.
You are saying something that is, I think, what most people oftentimes ignore is we all want to grow. We don't want to do the hard work, right? To grow, like what it takes, like getting feedback, putting yourself out there, being uncomfortable, working through the anxieties, right? Like not succumbing to the self-fulfilling prophecies.
Correct.
Right? What are some of the things that you was like, yo, like, all right, I can find this space to grow, or maybe this is a challenge for me that I can overcome so that I can grow. What were some of those moments for you that you kind of realized that?
Oof.
And take your time, because I asked some hard hitting questions.
Yeah, those are, I think on the personal level, I think it's first and foremost being in a marriage, to be honest, right? Is kind of the starting place for me to say that I had to own up to some of my own inadequacies, own up to ways that I sometimes unintentionally are hurtful through my language, right? Or sometimes that I take for granted the relationships that I have. So honestly, I think some of my biggest lessons in the last few years has been self-reflection on how am I treating people in my own inner circle, like my husband, right? Or even now raising kids. Somehow in raising children, the worst of you comes up and you're just like, where did this come from? Right? Like, I don't know your experience, like, your son does something and you're just like so angry and upset and you're just like, but you have this wildly like, there's no reason you should expect some things from your son. He's 3, like, and yet
Mm,
you're so angered by that, right? So for me, those are some of the lessons, and that translates into when I think about being in the workspace, right?
mhm.
So when things aren't good for us at home, we take it out on different people, right? And it shows up in ways that are harmful. That again doesn't make me the compassionate, generous, the courageous Lynn that I know I want to be.
Right.
I don't know. So that's one answer,
That's
right?
one. And
So
so
definitely kind of evolving, thinking about the role of intimate relationships and that. Yeah. And then I think now just a little bit kind of the journey I've been in, as an entrepreneur in the finance industry. Some of the lessons is just kind of, yeah, realizing how many limits I have on my mind of what I can do. Does that
yep,
make sense? Like
yep.
we limit ourselves a lot. We
Mm,
say, well, others can achieve that level of success, but I don't think I can, right? Or
mhm.
that's, like I see people I want to be and become, but I don't know how to get there. And I don't
Mm,
want to do the work of it sometimes. Does
right.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And so when it came to you making the pivot and you like, yo, I think financial and education, financial empowerment for, women who are maybe even, come from, other countries, may have had a similar experiences to you. Like, when did you get the courage to be like, this, I'm going to do it, right? Like, this, I'm going to take the jump. I'm going to take the leap.
Yeah.
This is for me, right? For right now, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit kind of what I do now, right? So a little bit, in the financial education and financial role or financial services, I work with an organization, but I run my own business, kind of providing financial education and financial literacy. So as an organization, we're part of a really large network of people through a community called World System Building. We're on this huge campaign to reach 30 million families by 2030. So
Mm,
financial literacy campaign, right? And so the community with it is this idea that there are so many families who aren't taught the education or aren't given the right education to make really good informed decisions about how to protect their family, how to build their wealth incrementally, how to get things in place, how to get the services and support. Right? Because in our culture, we're just taught to go to school, make money. If you have money, you have an okay job, save it in 401k, and then just hope one day that you be able to retire. In my own experience as 38, I did that, right? I did that. I got to school, got education. I worked at the university. At times, I wasn't making enough, to be honest, right? The first year or two, I just wasn't able to survive sometimes, right? I couldn't pay the rent. And that was a lot of shame related to that. But, in that shame, I did not ask for help, Dar. Why did I not ask for help?
mm,
This culture says, Lynn, you're educated. You actually should know all this stuff,
mm.
right? And I come from a family who's actually quite financially successful in many ways. As an immigrant, though, our family worked our butts off to kind of
Yep.
achieve the wealth that we had. But I took a different route, and then I said, wait, I can't go back asking for help, even though I was financially struggling.
Mm,
So my journey started there. It started with my own processing of my own financial journey, right,
yep.
and the pain points that come with it.
And what
So
was some
with
of those pain points, right? What was some of the other pain points other than like, not paying rent, not being able to, like, is there anything else that was like, whoa, like this ain't it?
Yeah, I mean, some of it is but I mean, like working constantly and not being rewarded. So
No,
sometimes as women, right? As
right?
women, we believe that we work really hard and someone will see it. Someone will
Yep.
give us the raise that we do, and not actually having the courage to ask for what we deserve.
Woo,
Those were real pain
woo.
points. I mean, I got to the end of my career, Dar, and many who know me know a little bit of kind of how I was at the end there, and really asking for other leaders who I thought had seen my work and would just give it to me, but they didn't. Like
Mm,
financially, it wasn't rewarded. And again, it's not about finances, but I was at a point where I actually wasn't able to do more of the things that I wanted. I had a mortgage by that time. I had all these expenses, and that where I was, and I knew what I was worth, I wasn't getting paid that.
mm.
60,000 was not getting paid what I was worth.
Ooh. So like, ooh, you
You
saying some
know,
good, because
yeah,
especially a lot of folks who, are in our community are educators, right? And a lot of folks think that the American dream is to be able to, have a nice house, nice cars, nice clothes, right? You go on vacations and stuff like that. Unless you're an educator, the dream is to be with children and kids and youth and, educating people. That's the dream, right? As if like a vacation is too much for like we going to Disney is enough for for educators. Like that's like a huge percentage of our salary, right? If we want to do it right, if we want to do it like folks is like who I know go to take their kids to Disney every year and stuff like that. I'm like, how? And I found myself in that same situation where I was just like, I cannot provide the life beyond this city for my family, right? Like I can't even feel comfortable getting a hotel room for 6 days. If anything, I can only do 2 with this salary, and then paying student loans and all that stuff like that. That was one of those things that forced me to also say like, yo, I believe that we deserve better. Right.
Yeah.
We deserve more. And that pushed me to start a company. Right.
Yeah. That was kind of, very similar, really, because I think we live in a world and a society that actually has a lot more to give, but so much of us is really what I call not thinking myself too, right? Thinking about our relationship with money. So much of helping people through their finances is helping them understand their relationship with money as well, right? And that I discovered that I had such a limiting scarcity model of money, right? Because I was so scared all the time.
Say more about that, please. Say more about the scarcity mindset. So the scarcity
model, this idea, right, that if I spend it, because I already don't make enough money, but if I spend it, if I do this for myself that I know would be nourishing, would be good, right? If I knew that getting a massage because I work 70 hours a week would actually change my life. But I was like, there's no way I can't spend that $70. I can't spend that $60. Now that I'm studying a lot about money and how success comes with money, is that the more tightly that I hang on to that and so scared of losing it, I actually, in effect, keep so constricted, I actually will never bring more to my life. That $70, and so I've had to shift my mindset and say that looking at the world of resources as abundance. So instead of saying, so what I'm teaching a lot about now for myself, right? Okay, go ahead and spend that $70, right? Because you need it. And then instead of saying, well, more won't come, well, then maybe my question is, well, how can I get that $70 back if I really need it, right? Can I serve someone something? Can I sell something of mine? Can I don't know, ask for help? Like there are other ways to replenish that instead of just so sticking to the scarcity that there's not more to come.
Right.
There's a lot more to come. Right.
Because the reality of the situation is your credit score doesn't go up by having a lot in your savings. It actually is being able to show that you can acquire and pay off debt.
Yeah. Be more responsible with it, understand how to use credit. Yeah. So in some ways, you're right. Like you add more to it. And in this example, right, if I actually choose to get that massage and move away from my scarcity model to spending money and go, okay, let me get that massage, then I'm actually, now I'm feeling better. I can do more, right? Actually, maybe I will produce more. So I can make more to replace what I had lost.
Yes.
That's the journey as an entrepreneur and in the finance world as I'm coaching people is to get them to move from that scarcity to abundance. And I myself am very much in that because I'm cheap. I grew up, like you gotta like penny, count pennies and all of that. But now that I'm in the finance world and learning strategies and concepts, right, that, savings, you can start small, right? That nothing has to be, this major change, right? To change your life, it actually, everyone says it, all the successful people out there, change your life, it actually just starts with very small things. So to changing your finances starts with thinking, starting with small habits. Can I put aside this little bit over time, right? Time and again. If that's where you want to go, and as I'm talking, so many people want more than where they are. Would you agree? So they want to do more. They want to be more. And yet who's in the environment to say, yes, you can be more. And actually, let me help you, right? Or here, I know someone who can help you.
Look at, so we got Sandy, I believe it say Chew in the
Yeah, my
chat.
friend Sandy, she said she couldn't find you, but I guess maybe she did.
She found us. She found us.
Hi,
Thank you,
Sandy.
Sandy. Listen, if you got any questions for Lynn, like throw them in the chat. I'm monitoring the chat. We going in. I want to go deeper on this idea of abundance and money mindset, right?
Mhm.
Now we talked about scarcity. So now what is abundance? Right? It doesn't, and I'm not talking about like billions of dollars, right? Like,
Yeah,
I ain't talking
yeah,
about that, right?
yeah.
I have my own thoughts, but of course I would love to hear like what's your thoughts on what an abundant mindset on money is.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I've been studying it quite myself. Yeah, I think it's this idea of just not being so scared that more resources are not out there. So something I talked a lot about before was there's kind of in many ways unlimited resources, right? And that we don't have to fight over. I mean, this is not just money, but all sorts of things. There's resources everywhere, right? That we don't have to fight for certain things, right? If we actually all came together to do certain things, right? So it's this believing that we can all thrive individually together, even if we all have a little less, but we all do it in community, that we all actually have everything we need. So that's one for me. So this abundance starting with, I actually don't have to be the only one, right? Right? That there's others I can like, there's a community of people. And so around money, right? Like if I'm struggling, even in this case, you and I started talking about some of your paths to help entrepreneurs. Imagine what you and I can do together to connect people, to connect spaces, to connect ideas, that
Yes.
out of that more will come. Would you not agree? But if you and I
Collaboration.
sat in our own lane and said, let me go find my own success by myself,
Yep.
and stick to, that actually I have to earn this part of it and Dar can get this part of it, but this has to be mine. What if all of it could be ours?
Right.
That's one way. I mean, that's maybe not where you see when you think about abundance, but that's one way that I look at the world and how we interact with people to create more abundance together, actually.
No,
So that's
you are
one.
hitting it spot on, right?
Yeah.
Collective finance, is something that we're not taught, right? Like I'll be honest in saying like my friends and I decided to do like a debt snowball payoff.
Yes.
I mean, paid off 60,000 or maybe 60,000 plus in less than 2 years. And like now we're in a point where we're doing a savings account. And I mean, we have 20K just sitting there, right? Where we can make investments when we feel
Together.
and
right?
that's collective group finance, right? And
Yep.
it's ours. It's not about, because the mindset of it for me is that's steeped in whiteness, right? When it has to be mine. I have to be the leader. I have to be the one, right?
You have to own it. It has to be your idea.
And that's not where most folks of color, that's not culturally what most folks of color internationally do.
Correct.
Right? Like it's only, well, not only, but when we get these capitalistic Eurocentric mindsets that we take on, right? It becomes a you versus me. I have to have and you, or it has to be you win or I lose, or I win and you lose. When we need models that help us say, no, we all can win, right? Yeah. And it might not look like you buying a mansion, right? But abundance could be just to a simple person of saying my bills are on auto pay every month, right? And I got some left over. So if I want to go get the massage, if I want to take a kid to Disney, if I want to, I have an ability, I don't have to question whether I can do that, right? And that's, I think for us, like the freedom that entrepreneurship can bring us. Now, I ain't telling people go out and quit their jobs, right? Like that's right. Like
if they hate it and they've built a good emergency fund. Now that I'm teaching people, if you have an emergency fund and you're being sucked dry, then there are other options, right? There are other options for you. Right?
So you coach people in that, right?
I do, yeah. I mean, so many people, right? I mean, some of the statistics and why I'm on this campaign actually as a financial educator is that we live in a very wealthy country, Dar, but would you believe that there's 60% of Americans don't actually even have a savings of $500 or more when an emergency shows up, right?
Wow.
60%. That's a really big number.
That
And
is.
about 30% of Americans can't actually retire. They're working well into their 70s, right? Well into their 70s, not out of want, but out of need.
And most of these are our mothers, fathers,
Mothers,
grandmothers. Yeah,
fathers.
absolutely.
And then if we focus a bit on women, why I'm so passionate about women empowerment because of my own journey, but women are disproportionately affected when it comes to finances, right? Women make less money in the workforce, right? 80% to, 80 cents to $1 for men, and then women of color, even worse, right? Indigenous, Latino, Black women in particular making like 60 cents for $1 that men are making. So what does that mean? That means my lifetime income will be automatically be less. One, because I'm making less in the workforce. Two, many of us have the great honor of bearing children, right? And producing in this world. And so we have to take time for our families, right? And so we're out of the workforce. So financially, there are so many issues with women that I think why I want to get as many women as educated, getting them empowered to know finances. So we teach finances through really simple ways to really help people get a handle and create a plan early, right? Yeah. So all of those, I think that feels just so crucial to me because I want people to, someone in my community actually said the other day, why she joined our campaign and why she's really doing this work now herself. She wants to retire with dignity. She wants everyone to have a place to retire with dignity, the ability to live in their retirement with dignity.
Say more about that, right?
Yeah.
About that, because that's got some depth to it, right? Retire with dignity.
With dignity, yeah.
Say more about that.
I mean, I think for her, I think she was in her 60s and 70s, been working, and I think she's 70 now, still working really, really hard to make ends meet. She has all these dreams of, working, serving her community, serving, traveling, seeing the world. Many of us delay, the things we want in life until later. But when we don't plan financially, we haven't worked alongside someone to really help us think about what our goals are. We get to a place where, we retire and we actually can't make ends meet still. And for her, she just doesn't feel like she's been in a space to like be able to be who she is and give what she wants to the world, even in her age, right? So I don't know, that was really powerful to me. And I think why I feel very blessed that I found a community, going back to what you just said, why I think abundance is so important and this idea of creating community is equally important is that each of us can contribute a little bit. And one other thing that we learn in our community and through the training that I get through World System Builder is that when we come to a place of having a lot, then we actually can give a lot. We have to give back, right? You can give from a place of abundance. Can you give from a place of being broke? You can't give from a place of being broke, okay?
Say that one more time, my God.
That's just true, right? Especially for people who are so good-hearted, right? Like who see the world for all its possibilities, who want to do good work. Like, you call yourself doing the good work. We know there are so many amazing people out there with so much to offer, but they're struggling financially because they don't have the right support. They don't have the right knowledge. They haven't learned all the right solutions that other people in other communities with more knowledge, when we think about knowledge, that is truly powerful, right? But anyway, so you can't give from a place of having nothing. That's what I felt I was. I was giving from a place of having nothing. But so now I'm striving and resetting my brain to say, actually, I want abundance because actually with that abundance, I want to create more abundance for other people. Yeah. And that's okay to be, right? That's okay.
And I think that's the trap, is that I think a lot of us believe that if we feel bad about transforming our own financial situation, right? We feel that, oh, well, since such and such ain't gonna make it, maybe I should dim my light so that I can make them feel comfortable around me, when it should be the opposite, right? It's never dim your light, like shine your light brighter
so that they are also light lit it up, right?
Right,
We're about the opposite though, aren't we?
We and it's the mindset, right? Like it's going back to elementary school, right? Like our institutions, businesses, community, right? We have an idea of what success should look like, And since I might not look like that, or I might not understand the challenges in which that I might have to face to get to that place, I'd rather just not, right? And that's the limiting belief, the idea that you just can't. Of course, anything is hard. I oftentimes think like folks who are college educated went through years of schooling, hazing in some of these programs, right? Let's just be real.
Yeah.
Like the hazing in some of these programs to get this paper, and then they go out in the world and they're not satisfied with their pay or with their job situation, and then they stay.
Yep.
So it's like, wow, you went through all of this to prove to yourself that you can make it, to only limit yourself when you made it.
Yes.
Right?
Ooh, yes.
Like,
pretty much. I mean, that's why I decided, okay, well, I came to realize I am limiting myself. Others are limiting me, and I'm actually limiting myself, which is actually is the biggest journey, is the self-reflection. Would you agree? Those are the hardest, the only person getting in our way to the dreams and the things we want to do. I've learned in my process, in the entrepreneurial world, in the finance industry this year, it actually has been me. Right? And that's hard to accept. And so that's why I'm kind of taking on more challenges, right? Being more courageous, speaking more. So speaking into existence what I want, right? As opposed to staying in that, okay, well, I'm not where I want to be. Instead of focus on that, why do I say, what if I got here, right? Like, imagine if I had the resources I wanted. I could give money to this resource, or I could, support businesses that I want. I could, whatever, right? And it's not about money, but it is about being able to do what I want. And I know what I want to do is serve people in the grandest way possible.
Absolutely.
Do that one day at a time, but I have to think bigger in order to get there, instead of just being okay with where I am. Yeah.
Yo, for folks we got 3 folks watching this live again. Like, ask away whatever questions you got. Lynn is an amazing resource for this education. And as folks get their stuff together, right? I want to speak to this idea that, like, when we are our own biggest barrier, right? We are the biggest critics of ourselves in many times. And so there's a switch, right, that we have to change ourselves, to grow, to move. But the reality of it is, like what you said, we're not doing this for us. We're doing this so we can create change for other people. And I think once we finally get ourselves out the way, right? Like, once we start recognizing that what we're trying to, why we started to go to go college, right? Like, I ain't gonna lie, I decided to go to college in the 12th grade. I was going to the Army. And the Army said, you got asthma, so this is not gonna happen. Right?
So they said no to you, so you had to pick a different route.
I had to. And so I'm the person, like, that's like, I really didn't know. I had no clue what I was going to be. But the one thing that I wasn't going to do is put myself in the way of what I believed I can do when I had something. I always believed that I would have more than what my mom had, or, she always had it put it in my mind, like, my goal is to raise you to have more, or be able to attain more than what I got, right? And it was my mom's job to raise me to have more than what she had. That ideology stuck with me. Right? It's one of those things that really pushed me to say, okay, once I feel like I'm ready, the thing will find me, and I will have to pursue it, of course, right? I felt like a light bulb would click, right? Some way, shape, or form. Now, I didn't think that the money would come to me. I always believed that the empowerment would. And so, but it always started again with serving others. And so for you, who is the others, right, that you are thinking about when you are doing this work?
Oh, so many others. I think so for us as an organization, this motto of no families left behind, or now I'm kind of learning the industry. I believe the finance industry has left many people, mostly the middle class. 90% of people are in middle class, right? Most of us are middle class. The income gap is getting wider,
Yep.
right? Those who are making more are earning more, wealthy get wealthier and poor getting poorer. So for me, when I talk about who do I want to serve is that middle group. Everything for me, where my heart sits is really communities of color, definitely immigrants, right, who come to this country to seek economic wealth and freedom, but never actually achieve, not never, but a majority don't. Right. I have people I'm working with now who, are immigrants to this country. They've raised their children to go to college, and then now they're just paying $100,000 debt for their student, their child who went through college, who themselves is also not making enough money yet either. Right. So when I hear those stories, it breaks my heart that those immigrants who came to this country seeking for something actually didn't have the help they needed to really plan their finances early. I mean, we can talk about, the type of work they're able to accumulate as well, right? Because they're immigrants to this country, or, what jobs they can earn or get into. So that saddens me though, right? Right. Most labor is really kind of what runs our country, right? We know that doesn't pay. Right.
Right.
So those, immigrants, communities are really important to me for sure as an immigrant myself, that there are, simple wealth building strategies and concepts that many of us just aren't taught. Right. We just are taught to kind of work hard, work hard, work hard, and one day it'll make sense. Right. And we're not taught about how to make our money work for us better.
Mm.
We really can't, right? We're taught to save, right? Put it somewhere in a bank that doesn't grow for us, right? We just say you save $10 a day or whatever, it's about $300. But if all you do is put it in a bank, it'll still only be $300. But with inflation, actually, it would be less than $300, right?
Say
That
that.
$300 won't get you very far, right? And so those are the simple things that, again, I think our educational system didn't create a pathway for those immigrants to learn that,
Mm.
right? So that's one. And I think you meant definitely women, in section of women and women of color. I think we have highly educated, really smart women who are busting their asses every day, talented to work for their organizations, the corporate spaces, the nonprofit spaces, right? Who are working so much that they can't even plan their own life,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Sitting in sessions and go, what are the goals you want for yourself? And they actually haven't had a chance to think about it. What are the things you've always wanted to achieve in life? They haven't had a chance to think about it,
Yep.
right? They haven't had a chance to put it in place. No one ever asked them that, right? So I think that's kind of really important to me as well. And then the other thing I'm thinking a lot about now related to those identities, also the many, many Americans who are kind of self-employed, right? And we think about wealth building because they're self-employed and they don't necessarily earn a W-2. They aren't in systems and structures that, automatically kind of give them an option to save through a 401k or something like that, right? A save to match. Those individuals without the right education aren't able to grow their wealth, and they'll be working for themselves their whole because they don't have the right strategies in place to invest, to build for their future, to be able to retire. Right. So those are kind of the three areas of individuals and community. And for me, that seems really urgent and important to really engage in these days. Yeah.
So if a person had $300, right,
Yes.
to like, what would you, instead of putting it in the bank, right? Because that's the first thing we think about. Is like, yo, all right, I got 300. Let's put it in the bank. Make sure I save it, whatever, for a rainy day, or go on a
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
What do you suggest?
Yeah.
Like, give us one strategy. Is like, yo, you should really think about this instead.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one is very personalized. So first, really need to know where their financial situation is. But one of the pillars that we teach is helping people understand what is a strong financial foundation. And so for us, it comes in 4 layers, actually. So the main one we talk a lot about is this idea of the foundation being kind of 4 things, right? So protection.
Look at she ready, right? She ready, y'all.
Debt management, emergency fund, and investment. You can't be an educator without some sort of book, right? But if core financial concepts. So this idea, right, the bottom layer of protection, this idea, have you attended to protecting your health, to protecting your life, right? That's actually at the core, because when you don't have those in place, something happens to you, your family will lose it all, right? So when we hear about people passing away abruptly, it's because they actually haven't built a foundation that actually will attend to that unexpected thing that will show up in life.
Yep.
right?
So you're talking about like
Maybe
life insurance, health,
one, yeah, life insurance, health insurance. These are the things that drain your, right? Having an estate plan in order, having your trust in place so that the decisions of your assets goes to who you want it to. All
yeah,
those are the ways we protect the money and the wealth we've built for ourselves over time. As I work, many of us don't know that we were never taught that that was a layer, right? But that's important, right? But how do you pass on generational wealth, right? If you
right.
pass too soon in your life, right? Maybe you haven't achieved all those things, right? So that's one, but all those are protection. Those are all the ways we protect ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Because I firmly believe now, would you agree that you're the greatest asset? Every asset you have, you are the greatest asset. Without Dar, without Lynn, what is there?
Right.
Right. And so helping people situate that. So that's the core, the protection for sure. And then helping people learn how to not overexpend on interest, right?
Mm.
So don't crack, don't charge up a whole bunch of credit card consumer debt. But that's the reality. People are not making ends meet, so they put things on credit cards, right? And so for me as a professional is okay, then let me understand where you are. Let me teach you the strategies. Like you said, you and a group of buddies were doing the snowball debt roll
Mm-hmm.
up. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's one we teach, but having someone work with you and hold you accountable to say, okay, it's okay. There's no judgment in wherever you are, whenever I come to you or wherever we meet, wherever you are is totally okay. But let me show you the impacts of compounding interest on the debt that you have, right?
Whew.
So that if you adjust and put $50 toward this debt, look how much you actually can save in interest over time. So as
Right.
I'm working with you, what I see is just knowledge. You don't think you're like, oh, a couple cents here and there, but I mean, it adds up, right? Have you looked at how much you pay on interest on credit cards? Even think about my mortgage. Now that I'm learning, so I'm like, wow, if I put this much here, look how much less interest. That interest is just wasted money that's going to
Yep.
someone else, isn't it?
Yep.
And again, there's no judgment on where you are and how you've accumulated that debt, but I know that it adds a lot of stress to people's lives having
Yep.
debt. And so our goal as educators is to help them move past that, really real tangible ways accountable, right? And then, like I said, statistically, having an emergency fund is just so important. And for me, where I'm coming to, seeing as I'm coaching people now, having an emergency fund in place, we say, you probably know, it's probably 3 to 6 months salary, right? To kind of survive without a job, and then for kind of major things that show up in life, like health things, right? You just
Yep.
have to pull their big expenses. But you know what I've been seeing lately, Dar, is people who are just really hurting in toxic environments, like work-wise, they're just being, yeah, it's just toxic, right? They're being overworked, exploited, and they don't have the financial means to get out,
Mm. Mm.
right? So then what does that do to that person, right?
Right.
They're no longer able to be the light they want to be in the world, right? Because they
Mm.
haven't planned when things were really good. So that's why I think a lot about now this, and I say myself included. When I started this journey, I actually thought I didn't have money, but when I did my own financial checkup, and I was like, actually, I do have some extra. I'm just not spending it in the right way. I'm not putting it
Right.
in the right places. I
Right.
wasn't strategic
So
in
that $5
saving.
Starbucks a day
Adds
adds
up.
up,
Yeah,
right?
it really
That
does. It
going
really
out to
does.
lunch with colleagues
Yeah,
adds
yeah,
up,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And it
yeah.
takes away from
Mhm.
the legacy that you're trying to create.
Correct.
I even talk about, like, as a man,
Yep.
if I can just say this, like, to other men, when we are out here having fun, doing what quote unquote men do, and you
Mhm.
mess around and you have 1, 2, 3 children out here by different women, one, financially, are you capable, right, to support all of the not just the children, but the household in which that they live in, that could be yours or theirs, right? My wife says, do you have enough love
Mhm.
to give? Right?
Mhm.
Because that's a bigger question as
Yeah.
well. And so it's spreading yourself
Yep.
all the way thin,
Yeah.
right? When you are putting yourself in this mindset that, like, I need instant gratification. This, it's a need versus a want,
Need
right?
versus want. Yeah. So that's a lot of, where in this society, it's all gets very murky. We think it's a want, but for many of us, we are very quite privileged. I myself included, right? Privileged. I have a lot of my needs.
Mhm.
So, but if a lot of my wants are getting in the way of what my future is,
Right.
then it takes real self reflection to say, yeah, actually, I don't need the newest cell phone. I don't need this. I don't need that. Right. And for me, when I'm teaching and coaching, it's not about everyone has the thing that they want. Right. Like that's okay. But it is about choices.
Yeah.
It's about choices. And when I thought about kind of my own family situation where I was thinking about, I just felt like I wasn't at peace because I actually didn't realize I hadn't saved enough for an emergency fund, right? And so, kind of in the saving side, it's teaching people to automate things, right? Like you said, even just put $5 aside, $10 aside, and then learning information like how compound interest works. Then you can grow that money. So that's kind of then for me when we think about the foundation, teaching people to save aside what they need, right? So they have peace of mind, so they don't stay in a job that they freaking hate or that they are being totally, exploited and hurt in every way every day. But then we can open up space for them to make different decisions, right? And moving to more of what they want to do. So having that emergency fund, I think, is a core part of savings that has felt really urgent as well to help people plan for that. And then it is the last level. And I think when I'm teaching now and as I'm learning from industry people, the society teaches us to throw money into the market as soon as we have extra money, but they don't actually educate us on losses in the market.
Right.
They don't educate us on where to put our money. We don't, and that when we don't have the other foundations in place, we're just losing. Yeah, we're potentially losing money into the market that isn't helpful. And so, to your question of where will I put 300? I think for me, it's like, what do you want that 300 to do? Right? Is it kind of the four things is what's important to you? Is growth important to you? Is safety important to you? Are there protections in it? And do you have some tax advantages? That's the other big thing, right? In building wealth, taxes is a whole other thing we didn't talk about. But taxes is really important. So people need to know about the implications of how taxes can drain their wealth or build their wealth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can talk a couple years about taxes right now. No, you bring up some really important points because I even think about when I started saving for a house 8-9 years before I actually bought one. And it was because one, I was growing into a young professional. I had people in my family pass away, and we all had to chip in to celebrate their life, right?
Yes.
And that's something I never wanted for my family to have to chip in, and I want them to just be able to just celebrate, right? Worry free. And that was just not the case for a lot of my family. I mean, my grandmother passed away, and it cost $3,000 to just get her body back to the state, right? Just to get her back, right? And so that was, and the type of policies that she had wasn't like, we're gonna pay you as soon as this happens. It's like, nah, like you gotta pay up front, then maybe put all these claims. Oh my God, right?
A whole lot.
And we set ourselves up to be literally in debt more. And so I decided, like, I'm gonna just put up $25 a month, right? As a grad student, only making $285 a month, right? To go towards my mutual funds. In the case of becoming getting a professional job, I increased that. We got a better job and increased it a little bit more, and it just kept on growing and growing and growing to the point where I'm like, all right, we're almost out of a recession. I need to buy a house now, right? Thankfully, we found something that was, the garage door didn't work. They had like 10 St. Bernards, so it smelled like straight up dog hair. Like it just. Oh my God, right? I had to excavate that whole space. But we made it work. Sold the house, was able to build a brand new one without having to pay any money out of our pocket, right? Because we made the investment early. Right. And so this is the type of mentality that you gotta have when you want to create wealth, when you want to generate generational wealth. You can't live for today.
Correct.
Right? We have to put our money in tomorrow. Right. As strategic as you can. I wasn't as comfortable with the stock market as I am today. Right. Definitely crypto wasn't even a thing I was thinking about getting into, which I wish I did. Right. especially Bitcoin back in when YouTube came out and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
But like at the time, what I felt was safe was mutual funds. And so I just did it because it was like, I know I'm gonna spend $25 on something that I don't give a about anyway.
Yeah, it won't serve you for the long run.
I know that I am.
Yeah.
As I became a professional, I know I'm gonna spend $100 on something that I don't care about, that's gonna bring me value. And so how about put that investment in my future?
Yep.
You know, and one of before we
good.
leave, like I think a bigger
That's the
piece.
small habits, right? It's the small habits you had to shift, right, Dar, to accept and to say, I want more, you know, in what you experience with your family and your grandmother. I don't want these burdens, or I don't want for these financial things to be limiting the way people celebrate my life when that time comes for me, right? And so in some ways that's you have to shift and go, okay, well, what do I do now to do that, right? And I think those are things we don't want to think about, right? And that's why I think when I reflect on the education we offer and the foundation that I teach and really help people build, it really does ensure that all of those things are met, right? Like that you're learning to invest, that you're saving, putting money aside, that you recruit and have reduced the amount of debt you have, and then you have peace of mind because you know if you get into a situation, you have enough set aside that you can make a different decision if you need to. That's peace of mind financially, right? And that, well, when the time comes, you know, my family's the wealth that I have accumulated will go to. We're not taught on how to do all that. We're not. And the finance industry, you know, they're not serving. You know, when I think about financial advisors, they're not serving the middle class in the same way. You know, portfolios have to be like 500,000 or more before they'll take you on as a client. That's where my heart really sits, is why, you know, we have a structure in our work and doing a campaign. So I have a couple events coming up I'm happy to share with you and others as well to learn about, you know, the financial education we're offering, get it connected to communities and people who will help you along that pathway.
So Lynn, it's 12:58. Oh my God, right? Like this, it went so fast.
I know.
What's one thing that you want to leave with people? And then, of course, how can people find you?
How can people find me? I am on Facebook. So my name is Linh Nguyen. On my Instagram, I think it's mlyn26. I am still kind of in the branding process of the financial professional Lynn. So I'll figure out what my Instagram name is later. My email is mlyn26@gmail for anyone who wants to contact me that way. You know, I think what I want to leave people with is you actually have the ability to do anything you want in this world, right? You can really achieve the things you want in this world, and that there's people there to help you, right? And from the money side or the wealth building side, if finances is something that's core to, you know, is a level of stress that's impacting how your inability to achieve the things you want, I'd love the opportunity to have a conversation, help you think through that as one, but know that there's a community of people like myself and others who are on this mission to ensure that every family has the information and knowledge that they need to really set themselves up for long-term financial success. And then I think, just not to limit yourself. You know, everyone, there's so much out there, right? So stay in abundance, stay in positivity. I know for sure is some of the messages I want to be out now in the world, right? Just because there's so much negativity out there, but we can choose. Right. What is it? You can change your habit, or you can change your world by how you think, right? Changing your thinking to change your future is a model that we teach a lot in our community.
Oh, that's good.
Right. That you have, your mind has the ability to achieve whatever you want, and that there's people out there to help you.
Yo, I can't say enough how important it is to connect with amazing people like Lynn. Like, send her a message, Facebook, right? Send her a message. Get on her calendar, right? One thing that I think that I love and trust in people is that they can tell me how they live their life, right? That's the type of person I want to invest my money with. Is people who are not afraid to tell, like, yo, this is where I was. I got married. Things changed. I had a kid. I had 2 kids. Things changed more, right? Those are the type of people that you want to make sure that you are putting, you know, your money behind, because they know what you're going to go through, or they know what you're going through, right? That's the type of people that I invest my money with. So I hope that you all got something great out of this.
Thank you
This
for
has
that,
been
Jack.
amazing, Lynn. Thank you so much.
Yes. All righty. You have a wonderful afternoon.
All right, and we're going to stop streaming now. And of course, as always, keep doing the good work.